The Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblywoman Black.
Here.
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Present.
Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblyman Ellison.
Present.
Assemblywoman Martinez.
Present.
Assemblyman Matthews.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur.
Here.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Flores.
Present, thank you. Please let the record reflect all members are present. We have a quorum. Members, I hope you had a great weekend and had an opportunity to be surrounded with some friends and family and give yourself some rest from the chaos of this building at times. I want to remind those of you who are following us virtually that at times we have a unique setup, which is why you'll see us looking in 14 different directions. Nobody has the same type of setup in their office. Don't think that the members are not paying attention. Members, I want to remind you to please unmute yourself only when you are speaking. Otherwise, keep your microphones on mute. Please keep your cameras on. Unless you have some type of emergency, you have to handle something. Obviously, feel free to have to turn off the camera at that time. But please notify the chair when you're going to be turning off your camera so that we understand what's happening. And for this morning, we have Assembly Bill 127 that's going to be presented by our very own member, Assemblywoman Dickman. We're going to afterwards go into support, opposition, and those wishing to speak in the neutral position. We're going to refrain and ask that everybody keeps your comments to 2 minutes. And broadcast, I will ask them to politely go over to the next caller after you hit 2 minutes. We anticipate that we'll have a few callers both on support and opposition. So for the sake of the meeting to flow, I'm setting the parameters as clearly as I can now. Remember that we will be having public comment at the end of after we conclude the hearing. But please, if you have any type of commentary in support or opposition or neutral to the bill, call during the bill hearing itself. Don't wait till public comment. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and get started and open the hearing on Assembly Bill 127. Good morning, Assemblywoman Dickman. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair Flores and members of the committee. Thank you so much for hearing this bill. For the record, I'm Assemblywoman Jill Dickman, representing Assembly District 31, which is about half of Sparks and the North Valleys of Reno. I'm here to present Assembly Bill 127, which provides for the confidentiality of certain personal information of peace officers and retired peace officers. Assembly Bill 127 adds peace officer or retired peace officer to the list of individuals who can request through a court order that their personal information held in the county recorder's office be kept confidential in NRS 247.540. Currently, the law allows for peace officers or retired peace officers to request confidentiality in the assessor's office, and this bill brings parity to the statutes governing the recorder. This bill will provide an additional level of security to individuals who have chosen to dedicate their lives to public safety, who by the very nature of their work encounter folks who by the nature of their decisions may seek retaliation against active or retired peace officers or their families. We need to make sure that we are protecting the Nevadans who protect us. Taking a look at the bill, it's pretty short. There's just one section. In subsection 1E of section 1, any peace officer or retired peace officer is added to the list of existing persons who may request that the personal information contained in the records of a county recorder be kept confidential. The only other change is the addition of a definition of peace officer, which is borrowed from the assessor's chapter. The definition includes any person upon whom some or all of the powers of a peace officer are conferred, and anyone who resides in this state whose primary duties are to enforce the law, including National Park Service rangers, agents employed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Secret Service, United States Department of Homeland Security, or Treasury Department of the United States. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Cameron Wagner, who's with the Washoe County Sheriff's Deputies Association, and Jason Guanassa, who is legal counsel for law enforcement associations, and they'll provide some additional testimony. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Flores and distinguished members. I'm appearing before you today representing the deputies of Washoe County Sheriff's Deputies Association, as well as 1,400 members of the Peace Officers Research Association of Nevada. The reason why this bill is important is to provide protections not only for the officers who are out protecting the lives of our citizens and the safety of our communities, but also to protect their families and loved ones who reside with them. These protections are also afforded under the assessor's office as it currently stands. This bill will bolster those protections to law enforcement families and law enforcement officers themselves. Peace officers are under attack in this nation right now, and protecting their families and protecting their loved ones is vital. I want to give you two examples of two different incidents that happened with my deputies alone. In 2016, one of our deputies was involved in a canine pursuit. This deputy was later stalked on Facebook by two different anti-law enforcement groups. These law enforcement groups not only posted pictures of his family, but also him, and they got his address. We don't know if they got the address through the recorder's office or through other means. We had to go up against Facebook, have the post removed, so his family and so that he was safe. In 2014, we had a similar incident where a deputy and his family, including his wife and young children, were pictured on an anti-law enforcement group's page. We had to make a post request for removal on Facebook to have this deputy's information removed. I'm going to turn it over to Jason Guanasso, who will provide further information.
Sir, I believe you're on mute.
Thank you. I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Flores, and distinguished members of the committee. For the record, I'm Jason Guanasso, and I'm the attorney for the Police Officers Research Association of Nevada. And as you may know, FORAN represents 14 Nevada law enforcement associations and more than 1,400 law enforcement personnel across the state. As you heard from Assemblywoman Dickman and from Mr. Wagner, this bill is a bill about safety, it's a bill about privacy, and it's a bill about anti-harassment to provide peace officers and their families with the same protections as justices or judges in the state, as court-appointed masters, as clerks of the court, the same protections that district attorneys have, the same protections that social workers and county managers have, as inspectors for the city and code enforcement officers have, as well as their respective families. So what do all these professionals I've mentioned have in common with peace officers and their families? Well, each of these professionals, they serve the public, and in delivering services to the public, certain members of the public become angry, hostile, and sometimes even abusive. These public servants and their families are often put at increased risks of harm for no other reason than they are simply doing their job. Now, to be clear, this bill does not, and I want to repeat this bill does not lessen the accountability and transparency of peace officers, as some of my social justice friends and other advocates will erroneously testify to in opposition to this bill. In fact, PORAN supports efforts to enact evidence-based police reform in the state of Nevada that will result in the transparency and accountability that many in the public are asking for. This bill, though, if enacted, would simply allow peace officers and their families to keep records maintained by the county recorder's offices of the state confidential. So the records that would be kept confidential would include deeds to their homes, easements, mortgages, mechanics liens, releases, plats, among other property-related and personally identifiable documents. Now, Mr. Chair, some of your colleagues may ask, why is it important to keep such information confidential? And the simple answer to that question is so that peace officers and their families are protected from people coming to their homes to harass them and or threaten them with violence. Notably, I think it's important to emphasize what has been mentioned once before, that existing law already provides this same protection to peace officers and their families with respect to records maintained at county assessor's offices in our state. For reference, you can look at NRS 250-130 and NRS 250-140. Such documents that are allowed to be kept confidential on behalf of peace officers include their property tax information, including their addresses and maps of their property. So really, this bill is simply cleaning up a loophole to protect the real property and the related personal information of peace officers and their families. So, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to thank you again for the opportunity to present this bill with Assemblywoman Dickman and Mr. Wagner. And we would urge you and the committee to support it with a due pass vote at your next work session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Dickman, are we going back to you?
We're open to questions at this point, and okay.
Perfect, Assemblywoman, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to questions regarding Assembly Bill 127, and we'll start off with Assemblyman Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, in one of the statements made just now that the district attorney's office employees are protected, and it says county managers and so on, so on. Is that true? Was that statement true? And could you restate which ones are protected under existing law right now for confidentiality?
Yeah.
Do you want to take that, Jason? I have the list right here. We also have it as an exhibit. Assemblywoman Jill Dickman for the record.
Could you read them off for me, please?
Sure. This is Jill Dickman for the record. Currently, there's any justice or judge in this state, any senior justice or senior judge in this state, any court-appointed master, any clerk of the court, court administrator, or court executive officer, any district attorney or an attorney employed by the district attorney, crimes, domestic crime, any state or county public defender, any person, including without limitations, a social worker, a county manager, an inspector, officer, or investigator employed by this state or a political subdivision of this state who possesses specialized training in code enforcement, and also the spouses or domestic partners of all these people are as well in this list. Also, any nonprofit entity in the state that maintains a confidential location for purposes of providing shelter. So there's a whole long list of people.
And I thank you, and I thank you for bringing this bill forward, because I think it's important to show who's out there protected and who's not. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Members, any additional questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and state your name for the record, members, if you do have a question. I don't believe we have any questions. Assemblywoman Dickman, I think the presentation was pretty straightforward and everybody understands the intent here. At this time, I'd like to go to those wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 127. Broadcast, if you could please go to the lines to those wishing to speak in support, and I ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 127, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 196, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Eric Spratley, E-R-I-C-S-P-R-A-T-L-E-Y. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. We thank Assemblywoman Dickman for bringing this bill, and we wholeheartedly support it and hope you do too. Thank you.
And thank you. Broadcast, if we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 127.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 125, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chair Flores, members of the committee. Thank you to Assemblywoman Dickman for bringing this bill forward. My name is Steve Gramis. I'm the president of the Las Vegas Police Protective Association, which represents over 3,000 commissioned officers. I'm also a proud member of the Public Safety Alliance of Nevada. We appreciate our legislative body looking out for the safety and privacy of our current law enforcement officers, as well as our retired officers. Thank you to the entire legislative body for your tireless work during these tough times. Have a good day.
And thank you for your call, sir. Broadcast, if we could go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 127.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 527, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Fergus, Kimberly Fergus. I reside in Clark County, and I am calling in today as a concerned citizen in support of this bill. It's, to me, a no-brainer, and I hope it's a bipartisan vote for yes and do the right thing and just put it into committee. Thank you.
And thank you for your comment. If we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 127.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 009. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Leinachi Hackley. It's spelled Leinathi-Hackley. And I'm the social media director of More Than a Hashtag, and I'm speaking on behalf of this organization. We're actually the group that has been pushing for accountability and transparency from LVMPD by organizing direct actions outside of these so-called peace officers' houses. We are actually in opposition of this bill. Since these officers have been on administrative leave, we have demanded the release of these videos. We're now demanding that the release of the body cameras from the officers on the stairs of the Lloyd D. George Federal Building and the arrest of all 5 officers, John Squio, Ryan Fryman, Vernon Ferguson, Dan Emerton, and Andrew Lotcher. The only way the public demand seems to be listened to is when we show up at these houses. Mind you, we've been peaceful and nonviolent, as everyone is well aware. So now we're trying to prevent from stopping this and by passing it through legislation. When a Black and brown individual is killed, his or her criminal record is on public for everybody to see. However, you want to still and hide the officers' addresses to prevent and avoid accountability. This is one of the few ways that we are taken seriously. When we have made it known that these neighborhoods have a murderer in the midst of their lives in the next of a murder. This bill is just another way to stop the public from seeking the truth and forcing accountability. We may not have CNN broadcasting our actions, but we have your attention, and that's all that matters. We urge that all the legislators vote in opposition of this bill. You'll be voting for the people, by the people. If I murdered someone, all of my information would be public. Why is it any different for someone just because they have a badge? That protects them. Hold them accountable, and maybe we wouldn't have to look for their addresses to show up at their doorsteps. It's funny how quick that you rolled out this absurd bill, but couldn't push the transparency for LVMPD when Jorge Gomez was murdered. Shame on all of you for sponsoring this bill and anybody that supports it.
Thank you for your call. Please let the record reflect that the caller was in opposition. Members of the audience who are following us virtually know that we are presently in support of Assembly Bill 127. We will be getting promptly to opposition, but I'd like to continue those wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 127. Broadcast, please.
To testify in support of Assembly Bill 127, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. And caller with the last three digits of 328, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is Linda Buckhart, Linda Buckhart, B as in boy, Uckard, D as in David, T as in Tom. I stand in support of this bill. Nobody should withdraw evidence in any case, and nobody should be harassed, peace officer or anyone else for that matter. There are some cities that have defunded their police, like Chicago, Minneapolis, Portland, etc., and have seen a surge in crime. Well, I see this bill in the same ballpark. It is of utmost importance to protect Nevadans. Please support this bill and pass it. Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am, for calling in. If we could go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 127.
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in opposition to Assembly Bill 127. Broadcast, please.
To testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 127, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 556, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIE GRANT, sister of Thomas Purdy, who was murdered by Reno police, hogtied for 40 minutes and then asphyxiated to death while hogtied by Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I urge you all not to fall for the testimony that was provided, which I will call propaganda. They spoke of anti-law enforcement pages that are against police, when in reality the pages they speak of are about accountability and transparency. Calling out bad police is not anti-law enforcement. It's about wanting accountability when someone who has the ability to kill without consequence. The police are already protected enough in your state and federally with qualified immunity. They can kill without consequence, so I don't feel they need any greater protections than the average person. You talk about them being harassed. Please cite an example when a local law enforcement officer has been threatened at their home The events that are taking place at law enforcement's home currently are peaceful, and they're to provide for action that isn't taking place and accountability for the families of those who have been killed by police. I urge you not to move this to a work session and to promote bills that actually promote accountability from law enforcement. I was at an event, and the law enforcement actually stood there and harassed every family that had lost someone to police. We were there speaking, and they stood across the street laughing. It's the other way around how it actually works when law enforcement are involved. The public needs protection from them. Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am, for calling. If we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in opposition to Assembly Bill 127.
Caller with the last three digits of 846. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Adrian Lowry, ADRIAN Police officers are given substantial authority via violence against citizens of our state, and this authority requires that citizens have measures of accountability. In very many cases of high-profile abuses of this power, it is found that officers were reprimanded for similar abuses in this community or other locales at previous times. This bill would deny accountability in situations like this. Another prominent issue is the relationship of the officer to the community. People want to know that the officer lives in the community that they are charged with serving and protecting. Citizens should not be denied this information. And in this moment, people in our communities are demanding more accountability. More accountability, not less accountability. Do not approve this bill. Support accountability and vote against this bill. We need more accountability. Thank you.
And thank you for calling in. If we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in opposition to Assembly Bill 127.
Caller with the last three digits of 037. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Tanya Brown, spelled TONJABROWN, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. We would like to echo all the comments made by those in opposition. We do not support this bill. And I would also like to touch on something that has not been brought up, and that is the world of social media, where you have officers and retired officers using social media, going in, using their true name, and then also using fictitious names to harm those private citizens, and not just those who have criminal records, but those who do not have criminal records. It comes to the point where these people should be held accountable, especially with the social media, Facebook, Twitter, things like that. They will spew their hate towards individuals. They will state things that is not true. They do not know the facts of the case. They not only will take it to social media, they will now take it to the legislature and testify as though it is true, when in fact it is not true. You will have, there are instances where some of the things that have been said in social media has led to people reaching out for attorneys to take action against these individuals and to hide their assets would be wrong. Also, I'm not sure if this is, and I'm not saying that all cops are bad. In fact, most cops are very good cops, but we do have a few bad cops over the years. And, you know, that's just how it is. And to deny someone access to looking at the properties they have obtained over the years, and these properties that far exceed their financial means as an officer, is questionable. And so there's things like that. So no, we are definitely not in support of this bill. And again, there are people who are appealing and are trying to exonerate one's name. And for them to go out
Ms.
and
Brown,
put the false
we've hit the
information
2-minute
out
mark.
there, Thank you. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in opposition. Please please keep your comments to 2 minutes. I know that there's a lot we want to say, but if somebody has already said a comment, you can echo, say, I echo the remarks of the previous caller, and then you can go into whatever you'd like to elaborate. But I just want to give everybody an opportunity and be as fair as I can. So please keep your remarks to 2 minutes. If we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in opposition to Assembly Bill 127.
For the new callers, to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 127, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 346, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin. With the last 3 digits of 346, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Brendan Becker, Brendan, Becker, and I am a concerned citizen speaking in opposition of this bill. I pretty much want to echo the past statements of the previous scholars. I believe that the police and throughout the police throughout this whole state of Nevada need to be held accountable, especially the police in Clark County. I've seen various accounts of harassment from both the Las Vegas Metro Police Department and the Henderson Police Department, and I truly believe that there needs to be more accountability towards the police, and also. I do hope that there's justice for the death of Jorge Gomez one day. The same way that there wasn't any justice for Keith Childress Jr., who was murdered by the Las Vegas Police Department on December 31st, 2015. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And thank you, sir. If we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in opposition to Assembly Bill 127.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 044, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Desiree Smith. I'm the founder of More Than a Hashtag, speaking on behalf of my organization as well. I beg the question, what are you protecting or who are you protecting? The answer is murderers. What bill protects citizens when we are gunned down by those sworn to serve and protect? One of those citizens was Jorge Gomez, who was gunned down 19 times by Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Where is the bill to protect impacted families from the police harassing them? Whether this bill passes or not, we will continue to hold law enforcement accountable since our local government is failing to do so. This bill is created to silence the public, and we are in opposition to being silenced by our own government. Protect your citizens and not murderers. Justice for Jorge Gomez, justice for them all. Thank you.
And thank you for calling. If we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in support of Assembly Bill 127. Opposition to Assembly Bill 127.
To testify in opposition on Assembly Bill 127, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Perfect. Thank you, broadcast. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to speak in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 127.
To testify in neutral on Assembly Bill 127, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in neutral at this time.
Great. And I want to thank those of you who have called in support and opposition to express your concerns. And admiration for this bill. If I could please come back to Assemblywoman Dick, any closing remarks you may have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say a couple of things. It seems like some of the callers might be a little confused. This bill does not prevent bad apples from being investigated or being held accountable. This is simply about parity in the law, aligning the recorder's office with the assessor's office. And I just want to say those who protect and serve us shouldn't have to worry about the well-being of their children while they're protecting ours. So thank you so much for hearing this bill. I really appreciate it.
And thank you, Assemblywoman. At this time, I'd like to close the hearing on Assembly Bill 127, and I'm sure that the committee members and community will continue to work together. I think this is a question of trying to protect those men and women who serve our state every day, and we know that they have a very difficult job, and at the same time, we have community members who are concerned about those who serve the community not necessarily having the option of hiding some of their records. I know some of the elected officials, we often have this conversation ourselves, and so I understand the other lens to this as well. I want to thank the members who have passionately participated in this conversation, and I'm sure the conversation will continue. I'd like to now open it up for public comment. Those wishing to speak for public comment, if you could please call in now. And I ask that you keep your remarks to 2 minutes. I want to remind those of you who are calling for public comment that we have now closed the hearing on Assembly Bill 127. But if you'd like to speak about another general topic that is relevant to this committee, that you please utilize the public comment line for that. Broadcast, please.
To take your place in the public comment queue, please press *9 now. Caller with the last 3 digits of 044, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, this is Desiree again from More Than a Hashtag, and I guess you guys aren't understanding why we are in opposition. You are saying that you guys are confused, I guess, in terms of the police hiding the records because they're scared for their families. What about the families that have already lost a loved one? What about Jorge Gomez's family? What about Keith Jr.'s family? What about these families?
Ma'am, I appreciate your sentiment, and I do believe that the members are aware of your perspective. However, we have closed out the hearing on Assembly Bill 127. I don't want to limit you. This is public comment. I want you to be able to speak, but we're no longer debating Assembly Bill 127. And I assure you that the members understand your lens, which is you don't believe that the police officers are being held accountable, and you have taken it upon yourself, along with other community members, to shed light on some of these issues because you see that they are not necessarily being addressed by law enforcement themselves, or you don't believe that the legislature is holding officers accountable. And so we understand the importance for you to have access to this data and the work that you all do. So I believe the members understood your position on that, and I don't want to minimize it. However, I don't want to prolong the debate.
I personally feel like you guys are not understanding because, as she said, she was confused. So I'm clarifying and reiterating what we have said. And I feel like you guys do not understand this until it is one of your children. So, as I said, Jorge Gomez's family and many other families.
Ma'am, if I could have you, let's do this. I don't want to prolong the hearing, but if you'd like to just speak generally, but not about the bill, just so that I'm fair. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to have 14 other people call in and continue debating. The bill hearing's closed. If you want to talk just generally about law enforcement or the work you do or anything like that, that's fine. But please just refrain from referring to the bill itself. And go ahead.
Okay. Right now we are pushing for the arrest of the 5 officers involved in Jorge Gomez's murder. That is John Squio, Ryan Fryman, Dan Emerton, Vernon Ferguson, and Drew Locker. So there's 5 officers that were involved in Jorge's killing. LVMPD has refused and has not worked with the public until very, very recently that we have released the video showing that Jorge did not point a gun at the officer, yet I do not see any of our local government speaking on this, as it is an issue that pertains to all of us, which is the transparency of law enforcement. So when it comes to terms of the Jorge Gomez case, we are, like I said, pushing for the arrest of these 5 officers. And for transparency, we are also pushing for the release of the body cameras of the officers that were on the stairs that began the interaction with Jorge Gomez that was shooting him with the low lethal rounds, which caused him to run and caused his murder to take place. So that is what our organization is doing, and we are demanding our local government speak up about it and do something about it, and get, our law enforcement to actually, work with the public and actually provide some type of solution to their never-ending problem, which is murdering people. Like I said, Jorge Gomez is not the only person that has been murdered. Keith Childress Jr. has been murdered, Charmel Edwards, Stanley Gibson, Tashi Brown, Rafael Olives, Thomas McHenry. There's so many names that I could go sit here and list. And none of the local government has spoke up about it or done anything about it to push transparency and accountability of our local police department. So that is what I'm here to do, and that is what our group is here to do, is to force our local police department and our local government to stop being quiet and start doing something about this before I am the next person or anybody else in Las Vegas or anybody in the state is killed by people sworn to protect and serve us. Thank you.
And thank you, ma'am. Next, I'd like to go to the next caller for public comment. Broadcast, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 556. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Anne Marie Grant, ANNEMARIEGRANT. I just want to say I think it's inappropriate for you to stop people during general public comment. Today I'd like to speak about Justin Morgan Thompson, who was 35 years old when he was asphyxiated to death by Washoe County deputies Kenneth Cameron, Randy Hill, Joel Hospodar, Peter Miko, Brad Mustafa, Kim Peak, Nicholas Tone, Trevor Solano, and Paul Hubble, who also asphyxiated my brother Thomas Purdy to death less than a year earlier. Justin had only marijuana in his system. Let me give you some of the conversation between deputies and Justin. Why are you doing this? You're being an a-hole. This is all on you. You asked for this. Believe me, by your actions, you asked for this. This is where we are at, and we are not going to de-escalate. Maybe you should rethink your decisions. The deputies had a discussion about excited delirium. The same male nurse from NAVCare came in and asked ridiculous questions. Do you wear contacts? Do you have allergies, etc.? And to a man who was clearly in need of medical attention. Then 6 deputies were on top of Justin the entire time. The sergeant yells at Justin as the nurse fires rapid fire questions at Justin. Justin begs for water. The female deputy, don't effing touch my hands. Justin tells him he can't breathe. Nurse asks if Justin feels threatened. With 6 deputies on top of him, he replies, what do you think? Female deputy swears at Justin again. Justin tells them he can't breathe. Nurse clears Justin to put him in a cell. Justin asks, can they please let up a bit off his back? No. Justin yells for help. Deputy, nobody's going to help you. We are the help. And as I stated before, we are not going to step down until you're in a cell. Why? We don't trust you. Justin is threatened with a taser. Deputies are repeatedly led by him with him on his stomach. A deputy with the taser kicks Justin. What's it going to take for you to stop being stupid? Do you not get it? We own you right now, and we're going to continue to own you. You are not going to... You better figure it out. My arm, yeah, you just lost that arm. I own this arm. This is my new arm, and every time you try to squirm, I'm going to tune it up a notch. We're going to throw you in a cell, and you can sit there and be stupid by yourself. Justin's breathing is clearly labored, and he's struggling. For almost an hour, Justin was face down with 6 deputies on top of him at the Washoe County Jail being smothered to death. It's time to stop protecting bad police officers. We don't need any more bills that protect them. They already have qualified immunity. They can kill without consequence, literally people who ask for help like my brother. Please do not support any bills that do not promote transparency and accountability and provide any type of further protection to police officers. Thank you.
And thank you again, ma'am. And again, we're sorry to hear that you had to go through that pain. Broadcast, if we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in public comment.
Caller with the last three digits of 527. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, committee members. My name is Kimberly Fergus, KIMBERLYFERGUS. Just listening to all this testimony this morning, I hear a lot of anger. And this is not, I cannot believe what our country, what our state is up against. However, when people get pulled over by the police and they're told to do something, you do it. It's called respect. And if you weren't doing something wrong, you would simply do it. I'm 61 years old, and let me tell you what, I grew up in the 70s. And hey, we ran from the police, we did things, but we never looked up their residence. So I'm just saying, I'm just disturbed that this is even coming up. Our police officers should be protected. A few weeks ago, they were heroes. Now, people want to know where they live, what they do. There's too much information out there. I wish we all could come together. Thank you. And thank you, legislators, for hearing all this stuff. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your public comment. Broadcast, if we could go to the next caller for public comment.
To take place in the public comment queue, please press *9 now. Caller with the last three digits of 009. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes, hello. Again, my name is Lainati Hackley, and I work with an organization called More Than a Hashtag. Just to kind of clarify something for the last woman that just spoke. This doesn't have anything to do necessarily with being pulled over. You don't have the opportunity to be able to speak your First Amendment right and attend protests, walking and being shot in the back 19 times. There's nothing that you can do to comply when you are running away scared for your life. This happens on more than one occasion, not just with Jorge Gomez, on a regular basis with Black and brown individuals, not just in Las Vegas, but across the country. So when it comes to complying, when is it time for the officers to comply? When is it time to hold them accountable for the actions that they follow through with? So please do not come on with the expectations that we need to comply. This is what we do on a daily basis. We are held accountable if we were to do something the exact same way and murder somebody and shoot them 19 times in the back. So until the officers are held accountable, you can't expect us to comply. Thank you.
And thank you for your public comment. I want to remind members of the public that absolutely we're doing public comment because I want you to have an opportunity to be heard. However, we're not entertaining a debate between folk who have an idea. So please, if you have your general statements about law enforcement or whatever it may be, or you want more protections or whatever that may be, I want you to be comfortable to be able to call. This is your house. You should be able to call. But there's no need for us to entertain debate between callers. This is a time for you to be heard and talk about whatever issue that you'd like to. But I'm trying to avoid this turning into a back and forth. State your position and make sure you're heard, have your voice heard, and then let the next caller speak. If we could please go to the next caller wishing to speak in public comment.
To take your place in the public comment queue, please press *9 now. Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no more callers at this time.
Thank you. To the public, I do encourage you to have the opportunity to look at our meetings ahead of time, you can always visit our Nellis website, and it gives you an opportunity to see what hearings are coming up. I make that point only to make it clear that you have an opportunity to let community members know what issues we're discussing, and that you build a coalition of support, opposition, or whatever it may be. Again, this is your house and you have every right to do that. But when we close bill hearings and presentations, we have to move on, and it's not a way to censor anybody from speaking. However, it would prolong debate, and it's just going to spill into public comment, and it'd just be a continuation of a hearing we've already had. That's the reason we do that. There is no desire to censor any of you. You can always have friends and family continue to call in and bring up issues for 2 minutes. You have every single right to do that. But just for the sake of clarity and fairness and managing this committee, we have to close out hearings and finish the dialogue at that time. And again, I just wanted to make it abundantly clear, we have no desire to censor people, but that's the only way we can maintain some type of decorum and control over the hearings. So with that, members, I want to remind you, tomorrow we're going to be meeting at 9 a.m. Please give yourself an opportunity to review Assembly Bill 143 and Assembly Bill 153. And with that, I appreciate the dialogue today from the community. I appreciate both sides passionately speaking about their positions. It's important. This meeting's adjourned.